Well, hello, and welcome to the Thriving Life podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Hough, and we are diving in today on how you can move from stuck to flow. I mean, we've talked about stuckness, we've talked about flow before, but what actually works to get you to transition? You ever asked yourself the question, why do I keep hitting the same wall? Like this old stuff that comes up and it seems to repeat. And then what's keeping you? Have you ever asked this? What's keeping me from feeling a sense of ease? Like, why isn't this easy? Maybe there's some areas where it is easy. And you're thinking, like, what the heck? It's easy in this area, and this area, but not this area. Like, what is that? Or maybe you've asked, is it even possible to move forward without pushing so hard? I'm here to say, yeah, it is. I know. Gosh, I've done it in so many areas of my life. So, if you've been feeling stuck in a project or stuck in proceeding forward with the dream that's dreaming you, or spiritually or emotionally or in a relationship, I think you're in the exact right place, because today in this episode, we're literally going to start to explore what's really going on. Like, what is stuckness? What is flow? And how do you bridge between the two? And what is the actual definitional objective difference between the two? How do we measure it? All right, you guys, we're going to dive in just a second. A quick announcement that I am really excited about. I want you to consider that upcoming, something that is near and dear to my heart, upcoming. For the first time, we're doing an experiential workshop that is called the Quantum Leap Weekend. It's a 3-day journey such that we can learn an evolutionary technique to get out ahead of the shifts that are happening in humanity. I know you're noticing it. I know you're noticing all the stuff that's going on in the world. How do you actually thrive and flourish through it? I spent the last few years, especially the last 6 months of the last few years, investigating through some tools using quantum physics, psychoneuroimmunology, and neuroplasticity to get us to a place beyond some of the tools that we've ever used in the past. New times require new ways of evolving, new ways of embodying, much more efficient, much more, let's say, fast in their ability to get you from where you've been to where you know that you can be. It all happens March 27th to March 29th, and it is definitely unlike anything you've ever experienced before, for sure. And you'll see the link. You'll see the link in the field here, and make sure you click on it, check it out. Very excited to dance and play with you. All right, let's get back to the topic at hand. I was going to share that even with my sweetie and I noticed that I get stuck. And he's probably hearing this story for the first time because he's producing this podcast. So I've noticed that I get to a certain glass ceiling where there's a certain level of almost clarity to have with myself. And when I don't have that clarity for myself, sometimes I avoid certain topics. I don't even want to have clarity for myself because I have clarity. If I do, I'll have to actually have that conversation with him. And that level of vulnerability, although it is light years different now than it ever has been, that level of vulnerability, it's a little eye twitchy. So sometimes what happens is I get stuck because I don't actually I avoid topics on which I'd have to get really real with myself because then I'll have to share it out loud with my sweetie particularly. And it creates this sense inside of a push me, pull you. Do you ever get that thing where you just wish someone else would get it so that you don't have to say it? And the thing is, other people aren't going to get it unless you speak your truth. I had something where someone had been judging me, holding me in judgment for quite a while, which is so painful. Oh, and they had been thinking that and so our relationship was at a standstill because they were feeling very righteous about the reason why they thought that I did something. And it wasn't the reason that I did it at all. I had been waiting for my own cosmic timing to do something, and they thought that I was basically withholding or not fully being, forthright. And that wasn't the case at all. So in that case, that relationship gets stuck, right? So we can certainly create a certain level of stuckness. How does that stuckness form? What is the role? What is your role in it? How responsible are you in that? And are you ever really stuck? Well, my answer to that question, are you ever really stuck? I think most people misinterpret what stuckness actually means. And I'd love to hear from you. You can put in the comment field, what's your definition of stuck? And maybe what area of your life are you actually stuck? That way I can, yeah, I'd love to read. What area of your life are you stuck? Where are things seeming to go round in circles for you? And are they really going around in circles? So my answer to that question is this, that we're not actually always going in circles. What we're doing, if we were to get super active or super accurate, not active, super accurate about it, is we are facing forward with the same understanding of life without becoming new, without understanding things more deeply, without changing ourselves. And then when we do that, what happens is life responds exactly the way as it has always responded. And then we recreate the exact same circumstances by not knowing that there's an evolution to make, not being curious about our own becoming, wanting to be right, that something is wrong, therefore having a standstill kind of perspective on it, or often blaming others for what it is that's happening so that it becomes an incredible excuse not to actually look for redirects or look for new information. What is stuckness exactly? What's the definition of stuckness? Well, it is perceptively recreating the same thing over and over again, right? And amid all the stress and the polarity that's happening right now, it's easy to get stuck or feel stuck perceptively because remember, you're never not moving forward. You're aging, you're flying through you're adding time in this time space continuum. You're flying through space at 55,000 miles an hour. You are always in perpetual motion. The reason stuckness feels so uncomfortable is because the truth is you're flying through space at 55,000 miles an hour. To keep yourself in the same place is to go against the actual direction of life itself and the momentum of life itself. We were born to create, right? So with all of the stress and the polarity that's happening right now, it's easy to feel the perception of stuckness because Stuckness is often created from a paradigm whereby your amygdala, your fight or flight response, your reptilian brain is trying to keep things the same. It's trying to keep things predictable. It's trying to give you the perception that everything is under control. When everything is changing, you're redirected. We're all redirected into a place where that part of us gets triggered. And when that part of us gets triggered, what happens is we default back to, we start relying on um, making sure that things don't change such that we can at least feel safe in predictable results. But that's never going to work because you're flying through space at 55,000 miles an hour on a planet that is spiraling, not going around, actually spiraling through space with the sun, pulled to Earth by a gravitational force that's created by that forward momentum while having a metaphysical, quantum physical soul and spirit animate a meat suit. That's pretty extraordinary, don't you think? You're not standing still. You never will be. You're never going around in circles. However, when you try to make everything stand still, it certainly will not feel good because you're going against, right? There is nothing like a good morning gravitational pull for sure. So, this example in my life of not moving forward or staying stuck, especially around really vulnerable topics, there's with everything moving so fast, I'm getting over that stuff a lot faster because it's so uncomfortable and so exhausting to try to manage things to keep standing still, isn't it? Don't you feel that way? You know what I mean? Like to try to keep standing still in the midst of everything changing so fast. Never mind what AI does. Holy camoleons. So I also want to define flow. So now we have a little definition of what stuckness is. Let's do by the way, that is a topic on which I wrote a book, Unstuck: The Physics of Getting Out of Your Own Way. So I it's a topic for which I have a lot of passion. Let's define flow. Flow is a state of forward momentum where you have consistent receptivity, where you allow yourself to be redirected by any contrast rather than stuck in it. And finally, flow requires the characteristic or the well-practiced habit of remaining neutral no matter what's going on around you. Because if you can stay in neutrality, you can also get redirected and be receptive to solutions that would keep you from moving forward. So let's do a little quiz about being stuck. Let's see how many check marks you check off. Okay. All right. First of all, these are the signs that you are someone that's prone to being stuck on certain subjects. That you carry yourself or worry about others. You worry about yourself in your life or you worry about others. The second is that you like to figure out how to get predictable results and just stick with it. Or maybe you have a methodology for staying awake and alive and uh, being available to life every day. Maybe it's meditation, maybe to write in a journal, maybe it's, you have a chat with a wise person in your life, but you do this thing every day. And one way to stay stuck is keep it the same all the time while life actually keeps evolving. Do you change it up? Right? Another is that you tend to hold on to righteousness or judgment. One of the greatest ways to get unstuck is when you're holding someone in judgment, including yourself, to have a conversation to move the energy, like I did first thing this morning with that person I was talking about earlier. Just to get deeper understanding and not stay in the polarity and in the separation. Separation from others will keep you stuck. And it's really painful. It's really painful to judge and to be the one being judged, you know? So those are all signs that you're prone to getting stuck. Righteousness is a great way to stay stuck, by the way. All right. Next, let's move into, so what do you do? Okay. So maybe you get stuck sometimes. So maybe you don't feel the flow sometimes. So what do you do? What do you do to move the energy? What do you do to build a bridge between stuck and flow? How does that work? Well, there's a few things that you can do. Absolutely. One is, and it's my favorite thing, it's disrupt the energy of the particular area of your life where you're stuck. Do something totally nonlinear, completely off the beaten path. Now, you could actually do that in general every day, right? You can do that in general every day. You can. So some of the ways that I might do that is it's really freezing cold out. I usually don't go out in the freezing cold. I'll just bundle up and go out in the freezing cold and go for an hour-long walk when I normally wouldn't walk more than 5 minutes. You can use, if you're right-handed, you can use your left hand to write today. Another thing that I've done is take the long way to, instead of taking the most efficient way, which is my modus operandi, take the long way, take the scenic way to the grocery store. Go the scenic route. And what you tell consciousness, what you tell the metaphysical universe that's constantly responding to you, what you tell your greater self, what you tell the flow, is that you're not always looking for the predictable way. You're not always looking for the linear answer. You're not always looking for the same old, same old. That's first and foremost. Exactly. Never come back the way you went. That's one of the ways that my husband laughs at me, because when I go on hikes, I don't like the straight up and straight back roads. I like it when I can go in a circle or in a, some other way, like cut the path short, or at very least what I do is skip the way up and walk the way down or something like that. And you're telling consciousness it's not the same old, same old. So if you're someone that gets glued to your desk all the time and you're just like nose to the grindstone and you always get the same results and you're efforting, and how you effort is you stick around in the same venue all the time and you don't get out, get out, get out more, disrupt the pattern, or go for a walk in nature and do a meditation if you never do that. Tell consciousness you want something different. The second thing is that you can do, either specifically or in general, be brave. Usually people are stuck in relationships or stuck in projects. Be brave and say what's going on. I feel stuck. Not I am stuck, because now you know that you never are stuck. You're flying through space in a meat suit with a spirit and soul pouring through the meat suit, pulled to the earth because everything is spinning in a spiral, 55,000 miles an hour. You know you're never stuck. You're always moving. You're always adding time. You're I promise you, it might feel like you're stuck. So the accurate words are, it feels like I'm stuck. And if I was to get even more accurate, it would be, it feels like the speed at which I was designed to move through space is not matching how quickly the results are happening right now. That's what stuckness is. So when you're brave, what you do is you interrupt the pattern. Brave courageousness looks like this. I feel stuck. I feel like we're not moving forward. I feel like it might be my fault. I feel like I haven't communicated things. And you just get really super vulnerable. Say what hasn't been said. By being vulnerable, the people around you now start being introspective about how they've been being. As Brene Brown says, vulnerability is a superpower, and it is. When you feel stuck, another thing to do is to go to someone you know has moved through something like that before and have them listen to you from neutrality and ask one or more people, what have you done in this situation? And let yourself receive and be given to, for all my lone wolves out there. In fact, for all of my lone wolves out there, I'll ask you right now, why don't you make a list right now of 3 people that might be able to assist you? Some of you might be part of our Agents of Awakening community. And if you are, you could ask a question of myself or Nika or Sonia or anyone on our team just by tagging us and get another perspective. See what I mean? There's always a way. Finally, I want to say that if you feel stuck, if you've been feeling stuck and you want to get back into flow, I am just going to go back to that announcement that I made earlier about the quantum leap. When we are in a place where we are operating from the same place we've always operated, it requires a new way of operating. You know this. You know this already. By immersing yourself in experiences with people that you love and community, there is nothing like being able to take the metaphysical view of your life, greater wisdom's view of your life, come way up above. Look at the hologram of how you're operating, and then understand an entirely new operating system that matches the times. So powerful. And when we do, actually, you know this already. When we do, I mean, I've had so many life-changing things happen when I've followed my intuition that way. It goes back to taking different action. So I'm going to add one more item. Don't be rational. As soon as you refer, this is one of my favorite pieces of advice when someone gets stuck. Don't be Sylvia. I'm so excited to see you in the event. I know you're already coming. I'm so excited. Don't be rational. What do I mean? When we're stuck, we get stressed. When we're stressed, our reference point becomes our history-based brain. You're either referencing the wisdom of your greater self that's calling you forward based on what you've ever lived, or you are referencing your history-based brain that has, God bless you, all the experiences you've had, are wonderful, but we've created so many protective mechanisms and reactive ways of being to protect ourselves from being hurt that when we reference our brain and we're stressed out, which is what you do when you're stressed out, you come up with methodologies to protect you. You're asking to go round in circles. It's history based, hence round in circles. It's when we get curious about what we don't know that we don't know, and we be outside of the box, that we make choices that maybe don't make sense rationally to the mind that's trying to protect you. But my gosh, it's like going to that party that you're like, oh, I'm tired. I don't really want to go, but something inside of me says I'm going to go. And then you meet the person of your dreams. You imagine if you didn't go? I remember, a workshop I wasn't going to go to, and I met this guy that I dated for a year and a half, had a great relationship. So pretty interesting, don't you think? It's pretty interesting. Interesting times. Some of you were on our amazing masterclass last week about the science of thriving in times of great change. And if you haven't listened to the replay, listen again. It was well worth it. I'm so glad you were there. For those of you that are feeling stuck, it takes doing something different. It takes acting differently. It takes being willing to be courageous. And I'm going to finish today with a quote that came through me in a workshop probably 5 years ago. Falling in love with the unknown, falling in love with the mystery, will transcend your need for courage. Falling in love with what you don't know, with the curiosity on the adventure, if you truly fall in love with that way of being, it will transcend your need for courage. Because that adventure is so much more interesting than having your amygdala run your life. To that end, my friends, here's to understanding that thriving operating system together. Here's to flying forward in a world that is now designed to go into the mystery. I mean, we are creating upon what has been, and we have no idea where we're headed right now. To embody that is to stay way out ahead of what's going on in the world so that you can flourish through these times. I truly hope that you join us in the quantum leap. I really do. It's all about these times, and there is no reason why we shouldn't flow. I'm so appreciative of you being here. Absolutely share. For those of you that have friends and family that are not flowing, that are stuck, share our podcast. Share this conversation with them. It really helps us. Make sure in the podcast you like us, you follow us, make some comments. We absolutely love that. We read them all. And I just adore you for being here today. Just thank you for being courageous on the adventure and being willing to even have conversations like this. It's game on, my friend. It's a crazy world out there. It's time to do it together. And when I say I love you, I remember Mel Robbins saying that on her podcast the other day. And I'm like, I'm going to say that too, because it's true. I do love you. Even if I don't know you, you are a fellow human being on the planet. And I have a journey just like yours. And we are in this together. And you are absolutely not alone. Biggest hugs all around. Talk to you next time.